Hello! Nice to see you again, everybody. I'm Rita Hickman, body mind expert, shiatsu massage therapist, and my specialty is helping women deal with burnout, especially women who are overwhelmed by the number of things that they need to do to be a good woman. I help gracefully navigate and get out of the mindsets and the beliefs and get the needs met so that we can be the highest version of who we've always supposed to be. We have all of these amazing capabilities, and the challenge is no one has ever taught us how to tap into those abilities and how to really become someone who embraces their life and makes the most of everything that they've been given. So today's topic is about reclaiming the wisdom behind your lost emotions, behind old emotions. So for most of us, what happens is when we have an emotion, it's not a good time, or it's overwhelming, or acting out on it may somehow give us, a negative outcome, or we're scared that expressing it will give us a negative outcome. And we end up either being paralyzed or stuffing it down or expressing it in really inappropriate ways. I would like to give you a different suggestion, a different way to maybe look at things. Okay, so I'm going to start with a story. Actually, it's kind of a sad story. They've done research at small orphanages in small countries and small communities, and one of the things they would talk about is when they would walk into a lot of these orphanages that they were silent. And the reason these orphanages were silent was because all of the babies and all of the children in these nurseries and these cribs and all these ages, they learned that if they cry, their needs won't be met, that it's kind of futile, that it's sort of useless. And if they act out, that typically that behavior is useless as well, or it'll give them a negative outcome. So when we have a feeling, especially when we're small, whether it's in the womb or infant or whatever, and we don't have the ability, hey Sharon, nice to see you, and we don't have the ability to feel safe enough to feel whatever's going on, it kind of becomes its own little entity, and it gets pushed down, and it lodges usually in some part of our body. It may lodge in our heart or a knee or our hip or our throat. It will lodge there, and we don't even know that it exists except when something triggers us. When something triggers us and brings up that feeling again, being choked up, or your heart hurting, or your hip or knee just aching. Hey, Teresa, when that happens, it's we tend to handle it by, not in a way that really gives us the wisdom. We typically go into our heads, going into our heads and thinking about our stories or who's to blame or what's going on is a way that we learned a long time ago to distract ourselves from what we were feeling. Because if you're small and you're kind of emotionally abandoned, which a lot of us were, then the only way to make ourselves feel better was to go into our head, was to escape into our head so that we didn't feel how terribly uncomfortable we were. Now the problem with that is, if we've got this emotion that we've pushed down ever since we were very small, when we don't listen to it, when we don't validate it or hear it or accept it, then it sticks around. And every time that we have it, Teresa and Sharon both waved at me, thank you. And Lauren's here too. Hi, great, Lauren. Every time that we have this feeling or something triggers it, it comes up and it overwhelms us. And it gets worse as time goes by, because emotions are chemicals, and the chemicals accumulate when they don't actually process through and detox out of your body. They hang out somewhere. And so every time as we get older, that emotion gets bigger and bigger and more overwhelming until you actually honor and validate it. Now, why should you do this? One, because it makes you feel less uncomfortable overall, on the other side. But here's the magic part. All of those emotions have wisdom, have insight, have understanding that's kind of buried inside of them. And we can't claim this wisdom, this higher power, this aha, this knowingness. We can't claim it until we get the emotion out of the way, until we actually are present with the emotion in our body and let it flush out. A lot of us do not love our bodies, do not love or nurture or take care of our physical selves. It seems selfish. It seems like, well, I should be able to power through this, or I don't have time for that. The problem is when you don't do that, it does accumulate, and eventually you fall apart, mentally, emotionally, or physically. So here's my tip or trick, and it's also your homework, for how to really gain the wisdom and insight behind your emotions. When you have an emotion today, and hopefully you'll have a bunch of them, when you have an emotion today, if you've got a chance, I want you to stop. I don't want you to think about it. I don't want you to have a story or who's to blame, or because that's how we escape. That's how we protect ourselves when we were small and we had no power. Hey, Claudia, I want you to notice where you feel it. Is it in your stomach? Is it in your heart? Is it in your throat? I want you to put your hand there, and I want you to ask that part of you and say, hey, what are you trying to tell me? What do you have to say? And it takes a little bit of time. Hey, Annette, it takes a little bit of time because you've been betraying it for decades now. You've been telling it to shut up. You've been ignoring it. You've been detaching. You've been hanging out in your head. You've been doing something else and distracting yourself. And this voice probably doesn't trust you anymore. This part of you probably doesn't like or trust that you will actually listen to what it has to say. So there will probably be resistance. It may tell you to go away, to leave it alone, that you don't want anything to do with it. You have to picture your body, especially when it gets stuck in old emotions, as back in that age. That emotional part of your body is still, a newborn, or 2, or 4, or 6, or 8, or 10, or 12, or whatever it may be. That part of you is still at that maturation level, okay? So you have to treat it as such, just like you would treat a little kid, when they were having a temper tantrum. It's because they're scared, or they're hurt, or they're tired, or they're angry. Hey, Banal, nice to see you. And when you treat that part of you, when you're feeling emotional, when you treat it as if you would treat the age that it came from, and you ask it what it has to tell you, maybe it's your throat. You say, what do you have to say? And it says, you know what, leave me alone, shut up, go away, I don't want anything to do with you. You never listen to me anyways, why do I bother? We all think it's a voice in our head from our parents, and it is, but it's actually a voice from our body. And so you sit there and be patient with it and say, no, I really want to hear what you have to say. And after that emotion has said everything that it needs to say, it will gather up this piece of wisdom that it has, this piece of wisdom that's been hidden from you, that your body has hidden from you. Because when you ask it, when you connect in with it and tap in with it, you don't even have to name it. You can just talk to it, just like you would a friend or a little kid. Talk to it and say, what amazing wisdom and insight do you have for me today? And when you give it 5, 7, 10 minutes until it's done being heard and felt, that's when you'll come up with the insight that will change your life next. That's when you'll come up with the piece or the step that will take you to the next place that you want to go, that will evolve you one step closer to a higher version of yourself. So when you reclaim that wisdom, in many cultures it's called reclaiming your soul, gathering back the pieces of your soul. That's what you're doing when you tap into these emotions and parts of your body when they're triggered. You're reclaiming that little bit of your soul, and that soul has so much wisdom to share with you. Hey, Beth, has an important thing that you need to hear. It's not complaining, it's not whining, it's not anything. What it is it's asking for you to stop betraying it, stop pushing it away, stop going into your head, and instead just feel it. Now, on a physical level, when you feel an emotion, it allows it to, you stay relaxed, and that emotion can flush out of your system. It can have the process it's supposed to have. You're supposed to, you know, have an emotion. You're supposed to feel it. You're supposed to be okay with the emotion. And then it finishes up, flushes out of your body, and you come to a higher understanding than you had before. Most of us, you know, we're told or taught that our emotions have no place, and that, you know, we're whiny or complaining or too angry or too sensitive or any of those things that happen. And in reality, we get more sensitive, we get more angry and hurt and judgmental because these chemicals keep building up every time that we are not physically present with them. Every time we don't stay relaxed and okay with what we're feeling, they will get worse the next time. And the jewel, the gift, the treasure, when you stay with it, is that very next piece of gold that will take you to the next place in your life, the thing that you've been reaching for and wanting. So, homework assignment today. Anytime you have a feeling, I want you to, or pick one, you know, if you're busy today, pick a feeling you have today when you have it, and give yourself about 5 to 10 minutes. Feel where you have it in your body. Go to the bathroom. You can escape to the bathroom for 5 to 10 minutes. You can hide in a closet. You can, you know, go make copies or get coffee or whatever it is that you do. I want you to feel where you have it. I want you to put your hand where you feel it. And then I want you to ask it what it has to say. And ask it what beautiful insight and wisdom and understanding does it have to share with you. And when you do that, you'll get that epiphany, that understanding and that aha, okay? Because that's where your wisdom hides. It doesn't hide out there with Wayne Dyer or Marianne Williamson or, you know, Hay House, or it doesn't hide out there. It hides in you, and you have blocked it and covered it up. And only by being present, physically present with how you feel, can you get that wisdom. Now, sometimes if it's a very old pain, something that you've been suppressing or pushing down or ignoring or going into your head for decades, sometimes when you get triggered, it takes a long time to come back with it. That's where these bouts of depression come from, and these bouts of anxiety, you know, that we're constantly trying to push away. It's our body wanting to be honored and felt for what it feels, for what it's going through. And it can take a while. But the faster you're present to it, the faster it can process through and move on. So if you start a tradition, a ritual every day of taking at least one emotion that you have and being present with it and feeling it, not only feeling it physically in your body, but asking it, questioning it, being excited about what it might share with you. What does this feeling have to share with me? And you don't have to interpret it as anger or sadness or anxiety. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to solve it. You don't have to, you know, any of that. You don't have to obsess about it. You have to be present with it. You have to put your focus on, what do you have to tell me? I'm here to listen to what you have to say because I know you're so wise. And then you wait and you listen and you feel it. And on the other side is where you get the solution. Not before you get the solution. It will appear on the other side, because finally you've taken away the blocks from hearing what your innate deep wisdom has to say. Okay? So that's your homework assignment today. And if you want a longer one, make a ritual or a habit every day of taking time to feel what you're feeling and ask for that wisdom, and you will evolve. You will self-actualize so much faster if you do that. It will be so much more graceful, a lot less work, a lot less hassle, a lot less time if you make that a regular practice, okay? Cool. So, because this is how Facebook works, I would love it if you would like, love, share, comment on other people's comments if you found value in this. Because we're trying to get this really important information out into the world to the people that need it. And so the best way to do it is like, love, share, comment on other people's comments. And that will make sure that the people who need to hear these things, that it'll start to plant in their head and in their body. They'll start to make changes, and you'll start to make changes. Okay? So cool. I hope you have a great rest of your day. It's a very busy Wednesday for me today, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Bye.